Hello, this is Defense Deep Dive, and I'm Sandeep Unitan. Chief of Defense Staff General Anil Chauhan recently said that India's border dispute with China is the result of the Panchsheel Agreement of 1954. India and China now share a 3,488-kilometer boundary called the Line of Actual Control. It is the world's longest disputed frontier. And for the first time in its history, India has an aggressive, aspiring superpower at its doorstep. How did this happen? Let's dive in. India and China, two civilizational states, have shared a geographical frontier for centuries, primarily the Himalayan region. But it was historically a borderland rather than a formally defined contested border. Now, the British Empire created buffer zones around India during the 19th and early 20th centuries. It was part of what they called a defensive imperial strategy. The goal of the British was to prevent direct threats to its jewel in the crown, India, by establishing physical separation. And they did this by creating independent or semi-independent states, protectorates, tribal areas, or neutral zones that absorbed potential conflict, hence buffer zones. Now, the British feared an invasion from the Russian Empire during what was called the Great Game Rivalry over Central Asia. And Afghanistan was the most crucial buffer because Britain viewed it as the primary invasion route into India from the northwest. Britain fought a series of wars in Afghanistan and concluded treaties to keep that country independent and neutral as a buffer zone. To the north, Tibet served as a vast mountainous buffer against Russian and Chinese encroachment. The 1904 Young Husband expedition forced the Convention of Lhasa. It established British influence and trade rights while keeping Tibet semi-autonomous under nominal Chinese suzerainty. Now, Nepal, Bhutan, and Sikkim were turned into protectorates or allied states. Now, this created a chain of Himalayan buffers blocking China's approach into India. Now, Burma was annexed and made a province of British India, extending the buffer eastward against potential threats from China or France, which had colonized Indochina, or Vietnam as it's called today. Now, independent India inherited the frontiers bequeathed to it by the British Empire in 1947. Now, the turning point came with the proclamation of the People's Republic of China in 1949. Now, in that year, 1949, China invaded and captured Xinjiang. Now, between 1950 and 1951, China invaded and annexed Tibet. China called both these historic territories which had always belonged to China, that's Xinjiang and Tibet. China then occupied Aksai Chin, that's part of Jammu and Kashmir, which saw it as a vital land bridge between Xinjiang and Tibet, Aksai Chin. It even constructed a highway linking both these regions. Now, the traditional Himalayan buffer between India and China evaporated when China captured Tibet. It became a direct India-China border. Now, in 1954, India formally recognized Tibet as part of China, as part of the Panchsheel Agreement. Now, officially, this agreement was called the Agreement on Trade and Intercourse between the Tibet region of China and India. Now, India assumed this pact effectively settled the northern border issue through a formal treaty-like understanding. China, however, viewed the agreement as limited to trade matters and did not see it as addressing border claims. Now, in October 1962, India and China fought a border war, and China firmed up its control over Aksai Chin. Beijing then began massive infrastructure development in Tibet. Dual-use infrastructure, which could also speed up the movement of troops to the border with India, also began to be built. This raised alarm in India. Until recently, India's policy had been to not develop the border, fearing that this would be used by the Chinese to invade India. But since the early 2000s, that policy has changed. India has invested several lakh crores in building roads, bridges, tunnels, and airfields all along the line of actual control. And this newly created infrastructure helped India successfully stand up to China in 2020 during Beijing's border aggression, which culminated in the Galwan struggle. Both countries have deployed their militaries along the border and what was once a tranquil border has now become a militarized one. Now, the only way forward is now for India and China to demarcate the boundary. And this is why in 2003, both countries began the mechanism of annual talks of their special representatives to find a solution to the boundary issue. Now, these talks have continued for 23 years without any conclusion. The talks will remain inconclusive for as long as the Chinese see the boundary dispute as a means of applying military pressure on India.